the Irish guy, and right, today I'm going to take a look at every Premier League club and see how many points you would have if their key player who has spent a bulk of the season injured, if he was fit all season long. Let's just see where each Premier League club would be in the table if their most important injured player was fit. Right, let's go. And lads, come on. Nearly at 200,000 subscribers. Be that one. Be that guy who forces us over the edge to 200k. Ya legends. Arsenal, Jurrien Timber plus 6 points. When Jurrien Timber was first signed, I think Ben White probably spent the month of July nervously eating his grilled porridge filled with panda bones. What? The media want to paint the picture that he's weird, alright? Well, lads, as an out-of-position right-back, White was probably scared of Timber. I mean, when his girlfriend broke the news to him, on who Sky Sports had just announced, Ben was probably praying that he'd accidentally misheard, and that she was just trying to tell him that she downloaded Tinder on her phone, because JT was surely going to finish his Arsenal career. Timber was to White what Raya was to Ramsdale, right? False. Mikel Arteta is far too smart for that. Timber has been out all season, but he's back featuring for the under 21s right now, and guess what? Oh, he is playing left back. White can breathe a sigh of relief, just like my uncle when he realized those police sirens were just off the Bad Boys film on the telly. If Timber had been fit all year, then Arsenal would be 6 points better off. I reckon his presence in defence would have ground out a 0-0 draw at Newcastle in November. Mikel Arteta would not have had to melt like an angry chocolate bunny in the post-match interview. I think the Gunners would also have kept a clean sheet at home and away to Aston Villa, turning both defeats into 0-0 draws, and the defeats over Christmas to West Ham and Fulham would have been 0-0 and 1-1-2, meaning that Timber would be playing for a team on course to be the next Invincibles 20 years after they last did it. They would have 86 points on the board and would be able to seal the title next week. Yikes! Arsenal missed JT more than Wayne Bridges' wife. Aston Villa, Emiliano Buendia, plus 8 points. So here we've got forgotten playmaker Emiliano Buendia, a £38 million arrival from Norwich 3 years ago. Back then, Arsenal were interested too. This is Arteta's first choice, number 10. This was supposed to be the long-term replacement for Mesut Ozil, not Martin Odegaard. Buendia is probably furious with his life. The bloke has talent. But he made his Argentina international debut 6 months before they won the World Cup. That should have been his year, but he didn't make the squad. Has had a squashed knee where the cartilage probably looks like marmalade scraped across Susan Boyle's face, and he hasn't played all year. He must be more frustrated than me when my mum wouldn't allow me to eat dog food on toast. Do I think he would have made a difference to Villa this season? Yes. I think his creative spark could have turned a few draws into wins, like against Wolves, Bournemouth, and Sheffield United before Christmas during their sticky patch, and maybe Everton and Brentford in the spring. I think Buendia could have unlocked 8 more points, which would leave you sitting pretty in 4th, 15 points above Spurs, and level on goal difference with Liverpool. But now, Buendia is instead more forgotten than Taz bars. Remember those? They tasted like snot. Bournemouth, Tyler Adams, plus 17 points. You might think I'm absolutely insane, but lads, Bournemouth are building something huge, and Tony Iriola has been utterly fantastic this season. And I am telling you, he should be in the running for manager of the year, and most of you had written him off as a chunky Pepe Mel at the beginning of the campaign. Shame on you! People might say that I have an unhealthy obsession with Iriola, and yes, to me he does slightly resemble a baby reindeer, but no! Don't worry, all I am saying today is that if Bournemouth midfield had been able to pick the literal captain of the United States of America, a former RB Leipzig midfield general in Tyler Adams, someone who nearly joined Chelsea last summer, I think he would have made a monster difference. And midfield double act of him and Alex Scott. Now, not the one whose presence on the telly causes Joey Barton to scream into his pillow at night. Nah, the other one. They'd be utter class. I think Adams would have gotten Bournemouth 17 more points. I know he didn't have that impact at Leeds last year, but he's now in a far more talented squad with players on his wavelength. I reckon his organisation in midfield and leadership would have turned draws against Brentford, Chelsea, West Ham, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, Sheffield United, and Man United all into wins. And I reckon with him in midfield, they would have beaten Wolves at home instead of losing in the 88th minute. Count them. 17 points. They would currently be 5th on 65. I'm telling you lads, European football is on the horizon for the Cherries. It's when, not if. Brentford, Ivan Toney plus 10 points. Okay, Ivan Toney wasn't injured this season, but still, he missed the first 20 games, forcing Thomas Frank to persist with Neil Maupay up front. Someone who might as well start burning down London with Lady Gaga, as he is the Joker. Come on, giving the Bees back their monster England international goal machine. A centre-forward oozing complete and utter class. They would have a completely different season. Instead of persisting with a footballing prankster who just wants attention and to score points with your mum jokes, they could have had the Tony and Memo double act all year long. Tony's goals would have turned early season draws with Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, and Nottingham Forest into wins. They would have scraped a point at St James's Park against emotionally exhausted Champions League legs. And I think Tony would have reversed the Sheffield United loss into a Brentford win. That is an extra 10 points. Suddenly, They'd be 12th on 45. Brighton, Solly March, plus 5 points. Look, Solly March has been out injured for most of the season. Would he really have made that much of a difference to Brighton? Roberto De Zerbi has already said his players are lacking motivation, which is criminal. This is supposed to be the next huge monster elite manager, and he can't even motivate his players for a Premier League match. Versatile left back Solly March has been out injured with a busted knee ever since October. And to be fair, he is a miss. Don't forget, he did start the season with 3 goals in his first 2 games. But I don't know. If he was fit, he might have popped up late in the box to find the winner against Sheffield United in November. He might have squeezed a 3-3 draw with Chelsea in December. Perhaps found the winner against Wolves in January. Maybe. But no huge improvement. He'd have gotten them 5 more points, putting them 8th on 49, but meh. Burnley, Luca Koleosho plus 2 points. Look, Luca Koleosho was a Burnley threat. An Italy underage live wire on Vincent Kompany's wing. At just 19 years of age, he was a thorn in opposition defences. He ran Manchester United ragged in September, but he's been out injured since before Christmas. But Burnley still lost most of the games that he played anyway. He wasn't actually contributing much. I don't actually think Koleosho would have changed much. He'd have maybe shown up and turned a home draw against Luton into a win, so maybe that's now 18th on 26 points, just behind Forest on goal difference, but meh. Chelsea, Christopher Nkunku plus 16 points. Lads, it's mental. I am being nice here. I'm giving Christopher Nkunku the benefit of the doubt and saying that if he wasn't out injured all season, that he would be a roaring Chelsea success, who would earn them 16 more points. But look, to quote all the football nerds out there, Chelsea's XG under Pochettino has been insane. It's just that Nicholas Jackson has been about as wasteful as 2018 Morata, but Nkunku, a French international forward who netted 58 goals in his final 2 seasons at Leipzig, he would have made a huge difference, having him profiting off Cole Palmer's delivery. Oh wow, those springtime sloppy 2-2 draws against Brentford, Burnley, Sheffield United and Aston Villa, they would all now be wins, as would that smash and grab 2-0 defeat at home to Brentford in October. I think he'd have also turned those sloppy defeats against Nottingham Forest at home into wins too. Lads, with Nkunku firing in the team, I mean, forget about the 5-0 defeat at Arsenal. Chelsea would have still won 8 of the last 10 league games and would be 5th on 64 points, breathing down Aston Villa's neck. Nkunku could have gotten Chelsea into the Champions League. That is how good he is. You know, when he's not needing a nurse to help him on and off the toilet. Crystal Palace, Michael Olise plus 10 points. We have seen how good Michael Olise is on the pitch. Crystal Palace have that magical fire and spark. He's just not on the pitch enough. Ever since rejecting Chelsea in the summer, his wonky hamstring has made him miss 19 of Palace's 35 league games. What a waste. But listen, Olise could have earned Palace an extra 10 more points. He'd have probably turned those stale, drab, uninspiring 0-0 draws at home with Fulham and Nottingham Forest into tight 1-0 wins. Would have probably found the winner at Goodison Park 2 with one of those special free kicks, and in March alone, I think you'd have helped Palace turn it on to actually beat Luton and Forest. That is 10 more points, and suddenly, that is now 8th in the league on 50 points, hunting down European football, coached by a manager who's actually won the Europa League. Suddenly, that's an exciting season. Everton, Dele Alli plus 5 points. I am fascinated to know what Dele Alli in an Everton shirt looks like, because so far I don't really have a clue. A handful of substitute appearances under Frank Lampard a couple of years ago. That's it. His only start was in a crushing 5-1 defeat at Arsenal. A game so forgettable, even I'm shocked to see that Donny van de Beek scored. Ali is someone who's telling the world he's got a daily reminder for the 2026 World Cup on his phone. That seems like a waste of a phone battery. He's never going to reach those Tottenham heights again, but I think he could be at the level of Ross Barkley. If he was fit this season, well, I mean, he might be fit anyway. It's just that Everton don't want to cough up an extra £10 million to Spurs. But whatever. Okay, if Sean Dyche had Dele available to him, I think he would have been useful. The last I remember of Ali was him being a useful central midfielder and number 8 in Nuno Santos' rigid defensive system at Spurs. He played every minute of the first 5 games, as Tottenham won 3 on the bounce, beating Man City at home, and he netted a penalty at Wolves. That is the last I remember of Dele. He'd have been useful for Everton. He would have taken Andre Gomez's minutes on the pitch and might have earned them 6 more points, turning that home defeat to Luton into a win, and then maybe turning that frustrating 1-1 draw at home to Crystal Palace into a win as well, by scoring one of his trademark wonder goals. I mean, Dele has ability. That is 5 more points, leaving you 14th in the league on 41 points. Fulham, nobody. Fulham haven't had any long-term absentees this season, you lucky dogs. Liverpool, Thiago Alcantara, plus 4 points. It is mental to think that Liverpool have an extremely sublime world-class monster of a midfielder like Thiago Alcantara still in their squad, and nobody's seen him all year. Such a waste, even at 33 years old. Chucking this supreme Spanish-Brazilian baller into Liverpool's midfield, alongside Alexis McAllister, as the 2 number 10s with the struggling Dominic Szoboszlai relegated to the bench, Liverpool would still be in the title race. They would have 4 more points. Thiago would have surely unlocked Luton's stubborn defense, turning that frustrating 1-1 draw in November into a win. I think he'd have also unpicked Manchester United's horribly defensive wall in that 0-0 draw at Anfield. That would be a 1-0 win. That is 4 more points. Yes, you would expect more points. I mean, I'm saying that Dele Alli would get Everton more points than Thiago would get Liverpool, but Liverpool's problems it's not creating chances. It's Darwin Núñez finishing them. But you would be second, just 1 point behind Arsenal. Luton Town, Tom Lockyer, plus 4 points. Poor old Tom Lockyer. Luton's 29-year-old centre-half captain, who's probably never going to play professional football again. He's missed the complete second half of the season due to a heart problem, which must be horrible. Slowly watching his teammates slipping back into the championship, I think Lockyer would have made a bit of a difference. Not a huge difference, but a difference. They would have 4 more points. I mean, come on. He is their captain. I reckon having this leader on the pitch, he would have helped them see out a 4-3 win at St. James's Park in February. I don't think their defence would have melted like a chocolate igloo in the sun against Sheffield United. That would have been a 1-1 draw, and he might have just prevented Bournemouth's late winner when they came from 3-0 down to win in March. That was such a cruel, deflating blow to Luton. If they go down, that was their turning point. I just think having your leader, your organizer on the pitch, their heads wouldn't have gone like they did. At worst, that game would have been a 3-3 draw. So that's 4 more points, and suddenly, oh, you're out of the relegation zone on 29. Man City, Kevin De Bruyne, plus 9 points. If Kevin De Bruyne was fit all season long, it would be game over for the title race. Don't forget, he missed the first 20 games of the season. With the Belgian Meister in their side, they would have beaten Wolves instead of losing. Come on, they had 68% possession and 23 shots. They'd have probably seen out wins over Chelsea, Tottenham, and Crystal Palace too, in that weird clump of draws in the autumn. That is 9 more points. That is first in the table on 88 points. With 4 games left, that is Manchester City still on course for a 100-point season. Yikes. Man United, Lisandro Martinez, plus 7 points. Make no mistake, Lisandro Martinez has been a huge miss in Manchester United's defence this season. He's only played 9 league games, as Manchester United have 2 World Cup winning centre-halves, and yet in defence, have still been forced to pick someone who made his Manchester United debut in 2006. Look, Martinez is not perfect, and he is probably still scarred from that 7-0 loss at Liverpool. I think his presence in defence stops defeat against Newcastle and at Nottingham Forest, turning both losses into draws. I reckon Manchester United beat Fulham at home with him as a centre-back, considering how hopeless they defended that afternoon, and I actually think he'd have helped United see out a 3-2 win at Stamford Bridge instead of collapsing in the final minute. That is 7 more points, and that is suddenly 5th on 61. It's a little bit better, but not amazing. Newcastle, Joelinton, plus 13 points. What? That is how you say his name. It's not Joelinton, it's Joelinton. Listen, don't underestimate just what a miss this man is for Newcastle. Joelinton is now... he's like a taller Michael Essien with the frame of a cruiserweight boxer. He's like Yaya Toure without the goals. He is a man mounted, a colossus, and has missed 18 league games through injury. He is a Champions League level midfielder. I am telling you, he would have turned that defeat at Luton into a win. He would have eked out a 2-2 draw with Man City at home. What? It was 3-3 last season with him in midfield. Why not? He would have stopped that nonsense midfield collapse and that stupid 4-4 draw against Luton. That would have been a win. As with the 2-2 draw at home to Bournemouth and 1-1 draw at home to Everton, Sean Longstaff is a poor substitute. He is about as talented as a bowl of half-eaten cornflakes, but Joelinton, he would have eaten every one of those midfields with a spoon. I think Newcastle would also have won that match at Stamford Bridge, as Joelinton would have made Conor Gallagher look every inch an unwanted Bobby Doll. That is 13 more points. That is now 5th in the league on 66 points, 1 point behind Aston Villa, and with Eddie Howe hunting down back-to-back qualification for the Champions League 2 seasons in a row. What? Nottingham Forest, Taiwo Awoniyi plus 6 points. Yeah, Taiwo Awoniyi was in good form for Nottingham Forest before he was injured. I reckon he's worth 6 more points, leaving you 17th on 32 and fairly safe from relegation. It doesn't make a huge difference, to be honest, because Chris Wood has still been good. Sheffield United, John Egan, plus 1 point. I like John Egan, but no. The Ireland international centre-half has been injured since September, with his last home match being that 8-0 loss at home to Newcastle. Nah, I mean, a fit Egan might have helped the Blades gain, at a push, 1 more point, but that's it. This team is beyond help. Tottenham, James Maddison, plus 11 points. Look, James Maddison began the season on fire for Spurs, then set out 10 games for Tottenham with an ankle injury during a critical period where they dropped 16 points. I mean, they'd only dropped 7 points from the first 11 games before his injury. I reckon a fit Maddison would have helped Tottenham take 11 more points, and they would be comfortably 4th on 71 with 2 games in hand. His injury has probably cost them the Champions League. West Ham, Michael Antonio, plus 4 points. Michael Antonio, the podcast devil, as Roy Keane might call him. He, like Maddison, missed a huge chunk of the season before Christmas. 12 games out during the winter months with a knee injury. I know he's West Ham's record goal scorer in the Premier League, but he wouldn't have changed much. Some of those defeats without Antonio wouldn't even have changed if they had peak Pele on the pitch. Maybe he would have found the winner at home to Brighton, and maybe Sheffield United away. Maybe that's 4 more points on the board. Wolves, Pedro Neto, plus 12 points. Typically, Portuguese flying winger Pedro Neto has missed 15 games through injury for Wolves, and he has made a huge difference. Don't forget, he was in amazing form before his November injury. 7 assists and a goal in his previous 8 games, and the only match in that run where he didn't get a goal contribution was still in a famous winner for Man City. That version of Neto was complete class. If Gary O'Neill had been able to use that Neto all season long, they would have 12 more points. Those defeats against Sheffield United and Fulham would have been wins. They would have found the winner against Burnley away, beaten West Ham at home, maybe nicked an equaliser at home to Bournemouth last week. That is 12 more points on the board, and that is 6th on 58 points. That might just be the nicest thing I've ever said about Gary O'Neill. Anyway, that's Steven. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section. What player do you think would have made a huge difference to you? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give a like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I'll talk to you in a while.